Hey, welcome back to the Leverage Advantage Show, where we show you the best ways to generate income doing the least amount of work. Well, actually, today we're really honored and very grateful to have Doug Crowe with us. Now, he's an author, a speaker, and he's a media insider, the founder of Real Bestseller. And I'll get him to tell us a little bit more about Real Bestseller. So, but I want to share with you a little bit more about Doug. Right now, he's been honored to share the stage with people like Craig Duswell, Robert Kiyosaki, Gary Goldstein, Bill Walsh, who's also a good friend of mine, and Roger. It's just a whole list of A-listers as well. So, Doug, thank you so much for jumping on the show.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Hey, why don't you share a little bit more about what you do and who you help?
Okay, great. Everybody's been told at one point or another, wow, you should write a book, or are you an author? And there's all this mystery about becoming an author and the benefits of it. And what I've learned over the years is that the benefits are still there, even with the advent of self-publishing and social media and the internet. Being an author still carries a lot of weight and credibility for any business owner or solopreneur, entrepreneur, speaker, author, coach. They all benefit from being an author. The big fallacy, the big lie that's being told is that that's all you need. You write a book and you're famous. Unfortunately, that's not the case, because Amazon is self-publishing over 800,000 new titles every single year. So even if you go through the painstaking process of becoming an author, you're still a drop in the ocean. So my mission, my job is to help my clients become slightly famous.
Slightly famous. I love it.
Slightly famous, yeah.
I love it. I completely agree with you. I mean, I didn't know the extent of it. 800,000 new titles published by Amazon. And in fact, I've got a couple of Amazon #1 bestsellers in various topics in the office. You know, my business partner wrote this book called Fast Business Growth. And for one day, he was #1 bestseller over, ahead of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek and Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Right.
So tell me a little bit more about how a book actually helps people like that, consultants, trainers.
Great question. So the idea of becoming a bestseller, especially on Amazon, is it's a process, but there's several ways to go about it. When someone like you or I rank #1 above Kiyosaki and Tim Ferriss and stuff, hey, we had a great spike in our sales that day. The very next day or the next week, the tide sort of shifts back to what it normally is, right? So I coined the phrase, and I bought the URL for a real bestseller, where we don't end with this, hey, you're a bestseller this week. That's our whole campaign. We start with that. We'll do that the first week to get you going. It's a good badge or a medal of honor to hang on your brand. After that, what's next? That's the most important thing. Is how can we leverage that status and put you in the media on an ongoing basis and build your community and your tribe and your readers and followers? How can we monetize that beyond the book? Because making money with a book is not easy. If you only have a book, right, it's $15, $20.
Absolutely.
But if 1,000, even Seth Godin says you can make a living with an engaged database of 1,000 people. Well, if you're just selling a book, you're going to be very, very hungry, be poor. Yeah. But if you've got a book, a digital video system, a retreat, a coaching program, and some online software, things you can leverage through the book, you can make a living with 1,000 people.
I love it. And I think, in my own business journey, this is something that we've learned as well. In 2012, my business partner and I decided to build this mobile application. It's called Street Smart University. And the vision really was to get all the world's experts, like marketing experts like Seth Godin and Gary Vaynerchuk, or pretty much very, very similar to what you see in masterclass today, right? And that was the vision. But one of the biggest mistakes that we made in that business was we went very wide, but not very deep. So it's like having 100 books in your catalog. You're not going to make that much money. But if you have one book, and then that book sells a $97 program, that sells a $5,000 retreat, that sells a $60,000 coaching program, that's when we started making a whole lot more, and we pivoted that. Instead of going wide, we went deep, and then easily we did about $1 million in 18 months.
Nice. Oh, that's wonderful. See, you're a great case study for what I'm talking about. Then perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned from some amazing people as well. one of my mentors, Christopher Duncan, he played a huge role in our development. And another man you might know, his name is Joel Bauer. And he's an amazing mentor to me. And really what he did was he showed us that, a lot of people, the book doesn't make you money. It's what comes after the book that makes you money. It's your speaking gigs, your coaching, and everything else. It's like a name card on steroids, you know. So
good way to put it.
That's why I love what you do. One of the things that really intrigues me, I'm looking at your signature talks, right? You're talking about alignment, and the headline, nobody cares about you. Why 90% of your content is never read, how to make your book articles and news page turners. I love it. And another thing that really fascinates me is hypnotism. How to hypnotize your audience. Like, as a student of Joel Barr, like, one of my favorite topics is language patterns. Now, can you share a little bit about some of these talks that you do?
Absolutely. And let me say straight off the bat that I am not an NLP person. I've never read an NLP book. I've heard Tony Robbins talk about it. I've heard other people talk about it. I know when people are using it on me, it's like, okay, really? I don't do that. But I do know that and it's sales 101, right, Fazil? It's like emotion sells.
Yes.
When I can compliment somebody, when I tug at their heartstrings, when I get them emotionally engaged in a topic or a subject, and it's usually the most important topic in the world, it's going to be them. When you engage them emotionally, they are primed to interact with you. The reason that speakers tell jokes is to get people laughing, get those endorphins going, so that it opens up their mind and their hearts to what they're going to say. If everyone's sitting in the audience like this, it's hard to punch through. But if you get them laughing and relaxed and happy, things just go smoothly. So I'm a student of psychology, and that's about it. I don't go down the manipulation route, which I call NLP straight up manipulation. Sorry, that's just my opinion.
I mean, that's awesome. Psychology, applied psychology. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Why didn't you?
Right. And being authentic is a big part of that too. I got to add that. When I'm working with somebody on an emotional level, I'll give you an example. Before our call today, I got a call from another author who wanted some help marketing his book. What's your book about? And he said, it's a poetry book. Now, normally I get people telling me about losing their brand and building a company. This guy's a poet. I'm like, okay, tell me more about it. Most marketers would just shut the guy up and say, I don't do poetry. I don't know how to market a poetry book. But I'm studying him and listening to what he's saying. He said, he's an artist, and I paint with words. And I'm like, you know what? He mentioned to me that one of the top selling books right now on Amazon is a poetry book. I didn't know that. So I like to learn as much as I like to give when it comes to talking to my clients, because he taught me a lot about that industry. And because marketing is ubiquitous, gave him some really good pointers on joining poetry groups, literary societies, and how to actually leverage something as difficult as a poem. It's hard to have a coaching program of poetry. So we had to dig a little deeper into what a poem does for somebody and how can you continue that feeling and that benefit to that person. So I was able to help him walk through expanding a brand out of that, because making money as a poet, get ready to go to work in fast food, because it's not going to be easy.
Aren't that many well-to-do poets? That's why they decide to count the struggling artists.
Yeah.
How did you get into?
And even the well-to-do poet like Maya Angelou is also a speaker, right?
Exactly.
She's a well-known poet, but she's a speaker, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Next question.
All right. Now, how did you get into this?
Oh, that's a fascinating story. I studied video, TV, and film production at Northwestern. When I graduated, I worked at a TV studio in Cleveland, CBS, and I'm working there, and Robert Allen comes in as a guest, and I'm like, oh wow, I thought I'd be in the TV film world, and this guy's talking about real estate investing. So I went up to him after the interview and I said, tell me about this real estate thing. He said, well, come to my workshop this weekend. It's only $5,000. Now here I am making $3.25 an hour as a lighting director for the TV station, and I said, I don't have $5,000. And to his credit, Robert Allen said, you know what? I understand that. Go to the library and check out one of my books. So I did. And the book is No Money Down. From that, I built a real estate empire of several hundred condos, apartment buildings, office buildings. I had a radio show on ABC Radio in Chicago. I bought an airplane. I had an island project. I was doing really well in real estate for 20 years, right up until 2008. But it all went away, and I lost all my real estate, savings, family, self-esteem, everything that was possible except I didn't die. But I even came close to that. And out of this turmoil, which a lot of people went through, I'm no exception. A lot of people went through this. But I wrote a book trying to have some kind of cathartic process, and the book stunk. I mean, the book was really bad. Some people were like, "No, oh, it's really good, Doug." No, it needs help. So being on the radio for those years, I was able to connect with the Laurel Langmeyers and Robert Kiyosaki's about how was it to be an entrepreneurial author versus being a writer. And they both had their books, and they admit it, both had their books ghostwritten, right? So I learned over several years what an entrepreneurial author is, right? They are using the author badge as a branding foundational tool, but like we discussed, it's done to accelerate and to expand and to solidify your company and your business. And I'm going to use the word company and business. It also is true for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, but for a real company who's got employees and payroll or has, a company is something that, you and I can take a vacation for 2 weeks, the company still works, right? So for companies and independent business owners, a book works if you work it properly. So I learned through pain and suffering and the turmoil of how not to do a book, right? And then Craig DeSwalt showed me how he did it, where he was tape chapter titles up on a wall and then talk it out, record a talk, transcribe it, and edit it up, right? I did that my first book, and I got it all done. And the book was awful. It was just read like a speech. So hiring the right ghostwriters and editors, and the key differentiator here, I'll give this to you and your audience, the key thing is not to write or to talk, record, or transcribe. The key thing is to be interviewed by a professional. Because a professional interviewer will ask the questions the reader wants to know.
Awesome. That alone, that's worth it, man. That's worth it. We can stop right now and everybody
Go ahead, stop. That's fine.
That was really awesome. Like, what was the biggest challenge though, like in getting to where you are now? I think, like going through that 2008 subprime crisis and climbing out must have been quite a challenge. Like, what was the most difficult part?
I was the happiest guy in the room. I was a multi-millionaire. I had my own airplane and property left and right. And I went from all of that quote unquote fun, material success and emotional and self-esteem success to a guy who was, no joke, found himself in his foreclosed home recycling paper towels in the basement because I couldn't afford to buy paper towels. I had to recycle and just dry them out. All right. So I had the presence of mind, however, and I can't find this picture, but I took a picture of my desk, which was an Apple crate, and I retained the laptop. That's all I had. And I'm like, I'm gonna come back someday, because I read the same books that you and I have, we've all read, the self-help books and the Eckhart Tolle's and the Zig Ziglar, all read all those books. But as I'm reading them during my fall, I hated everybody. I was angry, frustrated, and confused because it was so painful. I can't imagine wishing this upon my worst enemy. Coming out of it was much slower than I thought. I thought, okay, I'll bounce back. Nope. I had to go through more stuff for several years. Not 9 months, I was able to talk to my family again. But beyond that, I still was not making even six figures for a couple of years. It was tough. So the biggest thing is just being patient with yourself, because I thought, hey, I'll bounce back, but it didn't happen as fast as I thought it would.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
In Singapore is a highly competitive
yeah,
right? It's highly competitive.
Right.
People kill themselves, man. Like, they kill themselves. People jump off these tall apartment buildings. And every time I think about that, I mean, to me, I always think to myself, maybe because I have the presence of mind now, it's like, it's not worth it. I mean, whatever it is you're going through, you'll be, if you have the patience, you can go through it. But I've never been through that.
Yeah.
It must have been tough.
Let me tell you about that, because I'm a Dale Carnegie graduate.
Yeah.
I'm voted most likely to succeed in high school. And when I lost everything, and not just the money, but the self-esteem and the family and all that thing, thoughts of ending your life occur. And normally those thoughts come in and they go out that fast. Because like, oh, that's dumb. I'm not going to have a permanent solution to a temporary problem. However, when people go through it in a deep, deep depressed state, I can tell you that thought did not go away out of my head. It stayed in my head. And to her credit, my ex-wife came by to take my gun away from me. And I had to pull off the road a couple of times because I was looking at the oncoming traffic in a very affectionate manner. So it was not a fleeting thought. It was a serious consideration, because the pain of losing it all, mostly myself and my family and all that, was so great. The only way to end the pain was to end it all. So I never can conceive of it before this happened. How could anybody do that and take away the greatest gift they have? I understand. I came close, and I'm still here, thank goodness. But I understand, and it's not easy. Like I said, I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. I'd rather have them. There's other ways to suffer which are a lot less painful than that. Emotional suffering, because pain always heals, right? I cut myself, I break an arm, it heals. But the emotional thing, we sort of have a little bit of control or influence over that, and we beat ourselves up more than we beat up anybody else. This has happened. So
Thanks, man.
Enough about that. Yeah.
Thanks for opening up. I really appreciate it. Let's go to some quick fire questions. These are
of course. Go for it.
And you answer at the top of your head, right?
Yep. Fire.
So, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I ever received was by my father to compromise.
Thank you. And what is one of your personal habits that you believe contributes to your success?
The exceptional expectations of everything's going to be great. Even during when things aren't going well, and you live in that, you wallow in that mire for a little bit. If you don't reset as quickly as possible to expect something better, doesn't mean you're going to believe it necessarily, because belief is a much longer process. But that expectations of something better has to be, is what America was built on, was hope, right? So expectations of something better is critical daily.
And I'd love to hear from you. What is the one book you would recommend as a must read?
You know what? The first one comes to mind is one of my clients. I think I've read over 734 business books in my life. And the last 200, they kind of sound alike. You know, like, okay, there's another, well, same darn thing, blah, 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 right? But I did a book for a client a year ago. His name is Ariel Halevi. He's from Israel. He wrote a book called You're Not Moving Slow Enough. You're Not Moving Slow Enough, the Key to Lasting Influence. And as I'm interviewing this guy, working on his book and his process, I was enthralled. Everything else in our society, microwave ovens, internet, speed, fast to market, fast company, all these things about speed. And he's like, no, the slower you go, the more influence you have and the bigger impact you will make in almost every single case. This is a two-time international debate champion who's telling me to slow it down, to don't answer questions, to ask more questions, all these things that are kind of make sense and logical, but the way he frames it in this book, he's genius. So yes, you should read How to Win Friends and Influence People. You should read Think and Grow Rich. You should read all these trendy books. But if you want to read something that's new, that will actually make sense and is a little bit contrarian, Ariel Halevi's You're Not Moving Slow Enough is my favorite one of the past couple of years.
That's the one I'm gonna get. You know, I love new. I love contrarian. We've gone pretty long right now. I just have one last question for you. Right? If you had 30 seconds left to live, what piece of advice would you give? 30
seconds?
Yeah.
To live?
Yeah.
Start laughing. Start laughing. Start laughing. Go on YouTube, watch something, and laugh your butt off. When I was going through my depression, I said one of the new habits I'm making is I'm going to laugh every day. And since 2008, I've not broken that promise. I laugh every day. 90% of the time, it's laughing at myself.
Doug, it's been an absolute pleasure. If people want to know more about you, how can you be reached? Where should they go, man?
They can go to dougcrowe.com. That's DOUGCROWE.com. If they're interested in the book thing, go to realbestseller.com/free. And I've got a blueprint there for you can download and learn about becoming a best-selling author, becoming a best-selling entrepreneurial author, becoming a real bestseller.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doug. We are really humbled, really grateful that you took the time to be on the show. All the best in your endeavors, and I hope to speak to you again.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Hey there, thanks so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, check out the relevant video here, and don't forget to subscribe to us for more marketing tips, techniques, strategies that are working for us, or just more behind the scenes fun. See ya.